welcome to a new episode of the Wimblek Show, hosted in Stockholm, Sweden today. As always, the show is brought to you by Spryker, Depth and Bright, and today we are welcoming Asket, a new fashion brand that is very much betting on the slow fashion trend in the industry. August, the founder, joins us, telling us about the background and also about the plans forward. Alexander, what did you think about the episode?
I really like the idea of the Asket business model, and really it's cool to build sustainable fashion. The thing that surprised me most, so they're selling t-shirts for 35 euros and sweatshirts for 80 euros. And even though one could think this is a decent pricing point, they don't earn enough money to sell those products via wholesale. So they are really relying on direct to consumer. They do have a couple of ideas how to solve this riddle, but I let it to August to explain it to you. So have fun with the podcast.
Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Wimblek's podcast. Another episode that will air from Stockholm. Today with a very special guest that I've known for a very long time. August from Asket, a Swedish fashion business found here locally in Stockholm in Sweden. August, you and I know each other very well. Our listeners don't know you at all. Please introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be here. So my name's August Bard Bringéus, and I am one of the two co-founders of Asket, which is a online-only, direct-to-consumer slow fashion brand, essentially. Paradoxically, our goal is to have more people buy fewer items. So we actually want you to consume less and in a more considered manner. Prior to Asket, I studied business here in Stockholm at Stockholm School of Economics. Spent a few years at Klarna back in the day, where we got to know each other, right? And that was kind of my segue into e-commerce. After which I did some work in management consulting, but eventually, together with my co-founder, circled back to the idea of starting Asket.
Is it Asket or Asket, or is it a difference between English and Swedish?
I'd say it's a difference between English and Swedish, actually. So we've sort of grown accustomed to saying Asket in English. We only communicate in English, one language, globally, and it's become Asket there. In Swedish, it is Asket, though, as the word does mean something in Swedish, and in a few other languages, you have the word ascetic in English, or asket or askese in German, for instance, which refers to someone or a practice that refrains from excessive material indulgences, basically, and focuses on the inner values and removing what doesn't add value to life in general, and focusing on what actually does.
I really want to hear more about the whole concept, but I do know that you have a pretty special founding story with the way that you started the business, because it was the Kickstarter campaign.
That's true, yeah. Do
you want to say a little bit about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So we don't talk about it all too much nowadays, actually, because we are in the sort of the premium apparel segment, if you look at it objectively, and we feel that Kickstarter is a fantastic platform, but it does have a certain vibe to it that is more within sort of the tech and gadget spectrum. So for us, it was a fantastic starting point, and essentially it began with Jacob and myself having the idea of doing something about our frustration about our wardrobes. We have wardrobes that are, in general, statistically speaking, in the Western world, overfilled. They are bursting with clothing, hundreds of pieces, but on average we only use maybe 20 or 30% of those frequently. And those pieces that we actually use are the ones that we really love and use and care for the most. And what they have in common is that there's no compromise. The fit is perfect, the quality is nice, the colors are timeless, and they're easy to take care of. Whereas the rest of the stuff is, I think everyone can identify with impulse buying. You buy something on sale. It was a fantastic brand. It was, Burberry or Chanel or Prada, but you got it 3 sizes too big. But you wanted to have it anyways. You buy something that is trendy and it goes out of trend. You buy something for an occasion, poor quality, and it wears out. You end up buying a lot of stuff on impulse, and that's what the whole fashion industry is geared on. So, our starting point was to, basically changed the whole fundament of the fashion business model, based on two cornerstones. One, a permanent collection as opposed to seasonal collections. Instead of driving growth through novelty and constant renewal and convincing you that your sweater is no longer good to wear, when it's perfectly fine, we don't drive growth in that sense. And then the second pillar being a direct-to-consumer model, which allows us to slash the entire wholesale margin, give that back to the customer. And with those two pillars in mind, we're able to work very, very differently than the traditional fashion brand, basically. So to test this out, to get back to the Kickstarter question, sorry for the long sort of circumvention. We didn't have any money, right? We were studying our master's degree, and started this out of business school, and needed to somehow test the concept and see, if people felt the same way, if people felt that it was hard to find perfectly fitting, high quality pieces, timeless pieces at a decent price. And so we decided to try to pitch this on Kickstarter, and the response was tremendous. So saying that sounds like it just happened.
When was it?
This was in 2015, sorry. So in April 2015, we launched our Kickstarter campaign, and we did a ton of prep work, a ton of research to, reach out to friends, colleagues, whatnot, to sort of build a whole newsletter. Not very GDPR at the time, but there was no GDPR, so it was fine, I guess. We scraped LinkedIn and Facebook for email addresses, and just told everyone that we were starting our business and fulfilling our dream. And we had some help to create a video with our founding story, basically.
I just opened the Kickstarter campaign. It's saying here you were seeking like 10,000 euro, and
exactly.
you've reached the goal of 45,000 euro from
exactly.
like almost 700 people supporting you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where did these 700 people came from? All over the world, or Sweden mainly?
All over the world, actually. So we decided Kickstarter has a large share of the audience in North America, and we decided to sell all over the world. We didn't want to restrict ourselves. We really wanted to see this as a test of all aspects of the business model. First of all, are people interested in our proposition, in our USPs? Second of all, where do people come from that are interested in this proposition? And then after that, what would they buy among our colors and among our sizes that we offered? Since one of the founding differentiators is that we have an extended size system. So for the t-shirt, we have 15 sizes instead of 5. The idea is that we have XS to XL, but every size gets 3 lengths. So it becomes like a matrix of sizes where, if you're tall and skinny, you might fall in between medium and long, medium and large. A large is going to be like a nightgown, and a medium is going to be like a crop top. So you choose the medium long with us then. So introducing a new size system, there's no data, no third-party data that you can access to estimate that. So the Kickstarter campaign also helped us to actually start our forecasting for our own proprietary size system. So it validated the general concept, the pitch, the markets or potential markets, and helped us get the initial data going for to optimize purchasing.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And like since 2015, can you give us a rough ballpark how the business developed since then?
Yeah, absolutely. So this was really the start. We started with one product, the t-shirt, and our idea was to continue building our permanent collection slowly, one garment at a time, essentially. So in these past years, we've launched 28 garments, and each garment in maybe 3-4 colors. We haven't removed a single item, or not even a single color, from our collection in those 4 years, which speaks volumes of the permanent collection concept. If you look at a normal fashion business, within 4 years, you'll have replaced your inventory multiple times several times over. You will have wasted things. You'll have dead stock that you've sold out. You'll have burnt stuff, landfilled things. We haven't replaced a single piece of, a single style, actually. So we've gradually built our permanent collection. And I think, one of the more significant, pivots that we've had, I think, is that, or we've actually stuck to what we wanted to do. We wanted to create perfect clothing, zero compromise garments. And we've stuck with that. But pretty early on, we realized that in order to explain that you're getting a 90 euro t-shirt or a 600 euro cashmere sweater made in the same factory as Prada, to our customers without having to say that it's made in the same factory as Prada, how do you do that when you're direct to consumer and online only? You have no physical stores. And so we decided to open up our factories, show our factories, and show our pricing model to justify the quality that you're getting and manifest quality, which is something tactile digitally. And as we did that, we realized that, we wanted to go further in transparency. We saw that a t-shirt is not made in one factory. It's just one factory that sews. And then behind that factory, you have a factory that knits the fabric. Behind that, you have one that dyes the fabric. Behind that, the yarn is spun. The cotton is cleaned. It is extremely complex. And we were, absolutely, awestruck by the complexity of the fashion industry, how much work goes into creating clothing, and how little we know about it as consumers, and how little we respect our clothing, treating it as disposables with no regard to the resources that went into creating it, the impact that it's had, and the people that have been in the process of making this garment. So along the way, we realized that, yes, we are still creating, in our idea, perfect clothing, the best possible garments out there, free of compromise. But the more important and the more interesting thing was actually to use our business model and our brand as a way to educate the consumer about the impacts of our apparel consumption habits and have people reappreciate clothing for what it is, investments, the way that, our grandparents would do it back in the day. So we've pivoted into, a very purpose-driven company. We're still product-driven and product nerds, and the garments are our means to change people and influence people's consumption habits. Literally, if you have a piece of clothing that will outlast your entire wardrobe, you won't be buying new clothing, right? So we've gone from product-centric to mission-driven, with the products being our vehicle.
Back to the ballpark question.
Sorry.
Where did that journey lead you in terms of how many people are working for you, how many sweatshirts? And I've just opened your website, and I think it's an interesting concept, selling via size and length.
Cool.
But is it already a sustainable business from a business model perspective?
Right. So we were actually profitable in the first year, but we were heavily bootstrapped. It was, the founder, my co-founder, and myself. And we didn't take any salaries. We did everything, maximizing the 24 hours of the day, really. And since then, we've kind of had a growth trajectory that has been very good. So we've been growing by over 100% per year. I think our average CAGR up until last year was 210%. And we've gone from roughly 100,000 euros in gross merchandise sales to 7 million euros of gross merchandise sales last year, in 2019. And we're 12 people, full-time, here in Stockholm in a little office, and we have a studio and a workshop for our product team, and also a little showroom for our customers.
And where do you sell? Directly via your website or via other online shops?
Exactly. No, so we've stuck to our initial pillars, which was to build a direct-to-consumer model, because the two inherent flaws in the fashion industry are wholesale as a distribution model, because you're inflating prices in order to have, reach volume and reach, but you're making it impossible for people to actually buy high quality because it's unattainable price-wise. And the second issue is the seasonal collections, which makes us buy too much clothing, essentially. And we stuck to those two. So we're still selling only via Asket.com, with the same price philosophy as before. And geographically, you'll find our customers almost in the same sort of regions as our Kickstarter. We were a bit skewed towards the United States back then. Right now, Germany is actually our biggest market at about 35%.
Just to understand, your view on wholesale. I'm just have opened the t-shirt collection here, and you're asking €35 for a t-shirt.
Yeah.
And you're essentially saying that you're not able to sell the t-shirt for €15 to a Peek & Cloppenburg or to Zalando, because that's what they would ask you, so that they can sell it then for 35 or 40. Because your margin is too thin.
Exactly. Our margin is too thin. So essentially what we're doing is that if we were working in a wholesale model, we would be selling at this price, €35 that we're selling to you now, to Peek & Cloppenburg or to Zalando or whatnot. And Zalando in turn would, mark that up by 2.5 to 3x. So you'd end up paying around €90 for that t-shirt. So essentially we're selling our garments at wholesale prices to our customers. So essentially sacrificing that markup that you will have if you're if you have a monobrand store, if you have, Stella McCartney sells in wholesale, but in StellaMcCartney.com or in their stores, they'll actually recoup that whole, 3x markup.
Yeah, but the difference to like the new direct-to-consumer brands evolving around the globe, purely selling on their own Shopify shops, like the Kardashian family.
Yeah.
Their margin is super high.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
they sell like lipstick for like 10 euros a lipstick,
exactly.
though they have like 9 euro product margin plus taxes, of course. And you're saying your margin is super low, but the question here for me still stays is that I understand that wholesale usually gives you, even on a global level, some reach to new customers. And I understand where you're coming from like this Kickstarter corner. But I would assume this kind of super sustainable fashion is the story is wearing out over the way. So at some point, and now you have 4 years after your initial start on Kickstarter, it's not good enough, not sticky anymore to attract new customers to your website. Plus, and that is the other interesting question I would have is, as your products are so good, you're kind of working against the buying frequency KPI every e-commerce business would aim for. Please buy again, buy more. You're saying only buy once and buy less. Those are like these two kind of vectors are working against you from my point of view.
No, exactly. We haven't really made it easy for ourselves the way we designed this business model. So I guess, first of all, to address the wholesale question, yes, wholesale gives you reach and volume. But since our products are seemingly, to the surface simple, but packed with, a ton of ingenuity and engineering and smartness in the product design, the construction, textile engineering, to, achieve a plain white t-shirt that doesn't maybe look like much except that the fit is great. That will last for 5 years. It will last for 300 wears. We are measuring this empirically with our customers. It'll outshine.
And a standard Fruit of the Loom t-shirt, the cheapest quality, how much wears would that go?
So statistically in Sweden, there are statistics that suggest that a normal t-shirt is worn 30 times, and that is very, very high. If you look at global statistics, a piece of clothing will be worn on average as few as 7 times, actually.
Really? That's so low. I would have thought it was much higher.
No, both because of behavior, I guess, that we stop wearing it, we toss it away, and we dispose of it, but also because of, quality being subpar and deteriorating quickly over time. So what I'm getting at is that with wholesale, you need a visual distinction, and we aren't really a fashion brand. We create apparel, but we're not creating fashion. So, if you're selling wholesale, you need something visual to distinguish yourselves from the rest. Whereas our garments will, at face value, look the same as any other basics brand. And we can't rely on wholesalers to tell our story the way that we think that we're able to.
Is the quality very different? Because another guest here at the Wimleck show was the founder of Son of a Tailor, which you probably know. And I'm wearing a lot of Son of a Tailor stuff because I don't like the t-shirts from Peek & Cloppenburg and the others. So compared to your quality, does such a business aim for like the same quality, or is it still super unique?
So Son of a Tailor does a great job, first of all. I think their historical focus has been on size and fit even more than ours, since they have a made-to-measure system. I think they have standard sizing now too. But I've only felt and tried them. I haven't actually worn their t-shirts. So shame on me for not doing market research properly. But
no, this was my personal question. I'm always looking out for me, like from a man's perspective. So I would rather go for your approach or Son of a Tailor approach, because I don't like to buy stuff.
Yeah.
So whenever I find a source of stuff where I can do my repeat buying, I don't know if it's like once a year or like once every 5 years, I'd like to reduce my my buying work, which is very different from like female buying.
Yeah, you're bang on in the target group.
Yeah.
I was going to say, is that the reason why you guys don't do female collections?
Well, I guess it started because we are creating the clothing that we couldn't find, and sort of our compass in which clothing to create was in our own interest, really. And since we're not school designers or sort of fashion people, it would have been unintuitive to start with female clothing. Then, of course, the male buying behavior, and this actually goes into your other question, is optimal for our business model, because if you find your way into the heart of the male customer via the perfect Oxford shirt, the perfect t-shirt, or the perfect pair of chinos, then you'll stick around as a customer, because yes, we aren't as, in general, stereotypically speaking, we aren't as interested in shopping. We just want to find, a one-stop shop for perfect essentials. And from a unit economics and customer acquisition point of view, and that is, of course, fantastic, because if we manage to acquire you as a customer and you're happy with your product, then there's a lock-in effect, of course, with the size system, which is quite unique. And you will return with a very high likelihood, which means that with our loyalty numbers and our repeat purchase rate, the customer acquisition cost is actually really of the lifetime of the customer a fraction.
Are you able to earn money with like first purchase from a customer?
That's always our goal. So we have had 2 rounds of funding, but no huge VCs coming in. And we don't want to we're very careful when it comes to investments and when it comes to funding, and we want to grow organically as much as possible. And so our goal is always to break even on the first order of a new customer. And that's where we put our, target, customer acquisition cost. I
also talk with Jess from Son of a Tailor, about like the standard buying behavior from customers. And he said, okay, because of his make to measure system, was developed over time. I think he initially started with like a system where you would have to put in 40 different variables for like t-shirt was too much. Now it's about like age, size, sporty, not sporty, like only like 3-4 variables, and it only leads to like 5% returns because it's not fitting. So what is if I would choose now a t-shirt here and I see there's only extra large, and usually choose extra large. So, what is your return rates, and what would, let's assume I going to be happy with the first t-shirt, what would my customer journey would look like after the first purchase?
Right. So the t-shirt is a normal entry-level product for us, so it's sort of the entry-level drug to the Asket, the gateway drug to the Asket universe. And from there on, the normal behavior is that you'll repurchase again. You'll try something, you maybe buy 1 or 2 t-shirts to start out with, figure out your size, then you'll test that, because our customers are in general quite picky, so they're not going to buy a ton the first time around. They're going to want to wear and wash and test it and evaluate the product. And only when they feel comfortable, they will return. So within a few months, then they'll return with a higher value basket. And in general, we'll have, over the course of 12 months, we'll have a 60% repeat purchase rate from new customers.
Where do customers initially come from? Because since you're not present in wholesale, how do they find you?
Yeah.
And 700 came through Kickstarters.
Exactly. So the first
I was one of them, actually. I'm probably one.
The first 700 came from Kickstarter. We've had kind of a textbook organic growth approach from the start. So our belief, we have this little model that we show to all our new staff when they start, which is our religion, which has 2 fundamentals. One is product. With our strive for perfection, with a permanent collection, instead of adding new products, we perfect the ones we have. And with the direct-to-consumer model, we can take in feedback from the customers that we have. Our customers are, in general, very engaged and loyal, so they'll give a lot of feedback. So we perfect our products to theoretical perfection. That, in turn, combined with a fantastic customer service and customer experience, should lead to high customer satisfaction and propensity to recommend, or NPS, essentially. So with product and with customer experience, we aim for the highest possible recommendation propensity, or NPS, and try to build this as a word-of-mouth model with sort of a snowball effect. Of course, you need to start with some customers from the beginning, and 700 aren't really enough to make a dent. And so we've worked very much with PR, a little bit with influencers, to sort of get that snowball rolling in the first place. And I'd say only about 2 years ago or so, we started to invest in performance marketing. Initially, we had the idea that, everything that doesn't add value to the product must go. Fashion shows, big retail stores, wholesale, all of that fat has to be cut out.
What do you think about pop-up stores?
Pop-up stores are interesting, but they're an administrative nuisance.
You've tried a few, didn't you?
Yeah, we've tried. It's hard to scale. It's great in the beginning. If you don't have a space to actually meet your customers, it's fantastic to meet and engage with your customers. But it's very hard to scale, and do properly. There's a lot of admin. And then, of course, you have service providers that might provide spaces with staff, but then it's not your own staff. You don't get enough time to train them. It's interesting, but it's tough.
And on the search engine advertisement, what kind of keywords are you aiming for? Is it then sustainable fashion or something like that?
So we actually don't do any SEM at the moment, apart from brand search, just to make sure we rank.
Sustainable. Let me search this.
Yeah, try that out.
Let's look what comes up. Grüne Wiese-shop.de. It's like greenfield shop.
Right.
Hagar.com.
Right.
Ever heard of that?
No. It might be due
Amazon. Also with Hagar stuff.
So
you get the German results too.
Yeah, I think you're getting German results.
No, there's no. Only like 1 or 2 German results.
Okay. But we actually don't do. We don't compete for generic keywords. Since we're still a small brand, we've decided to only secure our own sort of brand keywords. And so, in terms of performance marketing, what we're investing in is predominantly paid social, and that's something that we've only been doing for the last 2 years or so. So. What I was saying before was that we had this idea that we're not going to pay for marketing at all from the start. Very sort of, naive. And it worked in the beginning, but then eventually you want that snowball to grow a little bit quicker. With growth, you gain influence. You can work better with your factories and whatnot. Growth by all means is good, but it's not our sort of main proxy for success.
What is paid social in your terms? Is it like paid Facebook ads or just influencer marketing?
No, it's paid Facebook and paid Instagram. Exactly.
Okay.
Those two.
So paid Instagram ads or influencer?
Paid Instagram ads.
Okay. And influencer, isn't that like a vertical that should work for you? Because there's a lot of like influencers that want to improve the world, and this is like
that's true.
Help their aims.
That's true. Yeah, they travel the world in jet planes, improving the world. No, I'm kidding. There's a lot of skepticism here in Sweden too.
Only the very successful ones.
Exactly. Yeah. So we did start with influencers quite early on, actually. The idea was that we don't actually pay. We didn't have any money to pay our influencers, so they got products and it was entirely unconditional. So, if you like the product, we hope you start wearing it. Maybe it'll end up in your Instagram feed. And if you like what we do, maybe you'll give us a shout out every now and then and support us. And that worked really well in the beginning. And this was around 2016, so a year in when we started trying that. And this was before Instagram ads. So the algorithm worked very differently. There was no algorithm. It was a chronological feed. If you scrolled to the bottom, you would literally stop where you had been last time. And at that time, influencer marketing was tremendous. And, companies like Daniel Wellington built their entire companies, on influencer marketing because, Instagram hadn't monetized, marketing yet. But then in summer 2016, that happened. Instagram was bought by Facebook and launched ads, and everything changed. So we still work with influencers, but it's more to get nice content, to get feedback, and to make sure that our products are seen in the right community.
Question on the brand. I mean, you almost started out as a non-brand, letting the product speak for itself. How desirable would you say is the Asket brand today?
Wow. I mean, if you look at it in terms of the potential market out there, I mean, we're tiny. We're tiny. So if you look at, in terms of brand awareness, we actually did our first little study here in the Stockholm area to try to measure a campaign we did this fall with our 100% traceable merino. And I'm blaming the sample not being big enough, but there was actually the spontaneous brand mentioning of Asket was 0%. So we're still small. I would say that that's not entirely representative. That was in Stockholm. In general, we can see now that we are being increasingly recognized. People coming through us. You hear a lot of people talking about us without actually knowing us. We've had a lot of press in Sweden. Mm-hmm. So, we're getting there, but we're definitely more of a niche brand for the enthusiasts still.
And wouldn't it make sense for like some of the standard fashion labels like H&M or Piken Kloppenburg or you name it, to buy such a thing like Asket for like internal greenwashing, to have at least like 2, 3, 4% of the garment produced in a way that is really sustainable and reliable, just to feed that to press and then go on with selling like €5 t-shirts. So it's because what you're describing actually, though of course there are some niches and some PR stuff you can do, but I think it's going to be harder and harder and harder to tell the story again, because you really rely on PR and word of mouth. Yeah. And you need this kind of growth injection on a yearly basis to keep your employees happy, to keep like money flowing in, and as you were saying, you're not able to sell via Peek & Cloppenburg or others, even if you want to, because there's no business case behind it. There must be a way for them to interact with this kind of niche, because if customers are asking for the same level of sustainable clothes, if there's more and more press stuff is going on, that there's like factories in Bangladesh burning or whatever. So it's something really needed from these bigger companies. So I would bet there's some bigger companies already knocked on your door. So and how did this talks go?
I mean, the fashion industry is really in trouble. Particularly the fast fashion industry is in trouble, as we are now on a broader level understanding the impact of the fashion industry. You know, it accounts for up to 10% of global emissions. It is, after energy, the dirtiest industry in the world, and energy is getting cleaner and cleaner for the day, whereas fashion is just growing and growing and growing without doing much about the problem. Fast fashion is in trouble. Fashion in general is in trouble and is being heavily scrutinized. And you can see that, you know, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of good initiatives out there. There's a lot of innovation in the supply chain on how we can reduce water consumption, chemical consumption, and whatnot. And you can see how, the fast fashion chains and the big ones like the H&M Group, etc., are launching new brands. One with a striking similar name, for instance, 2 years after we launched.
And very similar labels.
Exactly.
Or pretending to have that at least.
Exactly. So you see that they are trying to meet the increasing demand for transparency. And I hate the word sustainability, so I'm not going to use it, but let's say responsibility in the industry. The problem is that no one of the existing, incumbents in the industry is ever going to do it wholeheartedly until the financial incentives are there, until there's regulation in place to actually require real traceability, real impact assessment of your products, real responsibility of your supply chain. So basically all these initiatives that I'm talking about, of improving the marginal improvements of the impact in the supply chain, or launching, GOTS certified t-shirt line here and there. The sum of all these initiatives on a yearly basis is absorbed and offset by the sheer growth of our consumption. So, it's not making a dent, and there's no incentive to really change the status quo for these big companies, because essentially everything they're doing in terms of R&D is going into trying to invent a machine or something that can allow them, or a practice or a fabric that can allow them to continue to operate as they are right now, which is based on selling clothing that we don't actually need.
Okay, then I would like to ask you a question about the sales strategy from another kind of perspective. I understand that in brick and mortar environment there is no business case for a bigger fashion retailer and your brand, but when it comes to their online strategies, they can offer actually, and I think H&M wanted to start in marketplace in Sweden here a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, Zalando has kind of a marketplace infrastructure, and then you can say, okay, we charge you 5 to 10% of the revenue, and within 10% there's customer acquisition costs included, payment, all the stuff you would also pay on your own direct to consumer brand. Is that something you would look deeper into?
I think that's interesting because, financially it makes sense. We can see that commission from marketplaces as a customer acquisition cost. But we're still posed with the same challenge, which is that our clothing and our pieces are going to be stand side by side with competing items and seemingly similar items. So these platforms don't allow for the same, for the same storytelling that we can do in our own channels, in our social media, on our website. Mm-hmm. We actually tried with a fantastic platform, which is called Apumo, a British niche lifestyle marketplace. And we saw that, it didn't really make a dent, and we just felt that we were undermining our product by being on that platform. And that's a really content-focused and great platform. We're now working with them again, but on a different model. More of a sort of an affiliate test.
But I think the selection problem, that's only because we are still thinking in the old filters, brand, color, price, size, whatever. And this kind of let's say it's a sustainability filter.
Yeah.
And there's no official rating for it. There's no agency. There's no standard. So everybody's hanging like another hang tag on the fashion, saying it's like green labeled or whatever. But let's assume there's like a standard, and you're putting together a standard together with like 5-6 other companies. You're joining forming like a group of companies supporting the standard, saying, okay, this is like 100% sustainable, and then you can train the customers to use this kind of filter, saying, okay, how sustainable it should be. Do you really want to have the people that are producing the initial wool under full price? So should they also profit from your purchase? Then you have to pay like another €3 extra. What about the working conditions? Do you want to have like it made in China versus maybe a slightly better country, Vietnam? So it's another €5. And if you're able to give the people this kind of transparency, even on the bigger platform, such a product could outperform another similar looking product for less price. So
that's true. That's true. I think right now the challenge is that you can acquire certificates that have some kind of consumer recognition, like GOTS or GOTS or Fair Wear Foundation certified, Fair Trade, etc. So there are certain certifications out there that have a certain degree of consumer awareness, but we don't necessarily we can't wholeheartedly support working in that way, because no certificates out there right now actually cover the entire value chain. If you take GOTS, that is, you can certify an entire product, but it's mostly about the farms. And so a lot of brands will say that, we have a GOTS certification, but it's really just the farm. And from there on, you dye it black. There's no such thing as an organic black t-shirt. That's not an organic dye stuff, basically. You can't achieve that organically. Or if you look at
GOTS means Global Organic Textile Standard.
Exactly.
I just looked it up, so just
for those who didn't know.
Yeah,
exactly. No, and so if you look at certifications out there, we actually spent half a year with a master's student helping us research and map all the certifications out there to understand what they actually cover. And each certification covers very different aspects of the supply chain. And to us, that's a problem, because you can then acquire this certification and reach an esteem of sustainability, let's say, without actually having to bother the full picture. And then you just print GOTS on your T-shirt with a huge ugly print on it that's going to go out of trend the next season, and that doesn't really make a difference. What makes a difference is looking at the entire value chain, making sure that every single processing location is working well. And currently, we feel that the best way to do that is to go there and visit these places ourselves.
But then you have to form your own standard.
Then right? We have to form our own standard, exactly. Then we have to form our own standard, and that's exactly what we did with our full traceability standard that we launched in 2017, where we committed to making our entire portfolio of clothing 100% transparent. We break down the materials into every single location and trace it back all the way to the wool, to the cotton.
But the standard only applies to your value chain, right? You're not able to give the standard or to lend the standard to another company. You don't have like officers that could go to H&M and say, okay, this product line is
Asket certified.
The Asket certified. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, maybe that's something we can do in the future, but no, we haven't done that yet. I think it would be interesting, and we're more and more looking into how we can get involved in policy and in policy in general on national level and also EU level. But we're 12 people. We need to focus on the core of our business at the end of the day.
When it comes to the whole debate about sustainability in fashion, do you feel that it's picking up more and more? Because my perception, at least, is, and I'm not a fashion expert at all, that in the past, the debate has been much more focused around human rights.
Yeah.
The conditions under which textiles are produced, garments are produced,
Yeah.
child labor,
Yeah.
burning factories with sort of poorly paid seamstresses. And now it's becoming more into, or it's moving more to the direction of, hey, it actually takes several hundred liters of water to produce a single pair of jeans, for example. Is that picking up? Or
Thousands, actually.
Is it? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Maybe worse than I thought. Do you feel like that's picking up, or is it something that's currently quite hyped, sort of in the age of Greta Thunberg?
No, I think that it is, a lot of things are colliding, and there's, some people call it a macro trend, and I think that's the worst thing you can say, that sustainability is a trend. It's an absolute necessity to take responsibility and clean up our act in general. But with that said, there's a lot going on right now, obviously. So you have, Greta Thunberg on the one hand as an ambassador that has exploded the past years. And you have the whole, climate change debate that has also, partly thanks to Greta, become a lot bigger and more mainstream. And so the fashion industry then, hasn't been able to stay in its hiding. And as we look at what actually has an impact in the sort of modern Western lifestyle, clothing inevitably is one of the worst categories, and the fashion industry has become more and more scrutinized now. And as you said, it was initially more human rights questions, not enough at the time even. It's almost ironic that, we had in 2011, I believe, the Rana Plaza building collapse, killing 1,100 people in Bangladesh, creating the T-shirts that we here in Sweden, in Stockholm, in Germany, in Berlin, wherever, wear every day. And that just sort of died out. And only now that we can feel temperatures changing, literally, we can feel it ourselves, is the debate really sparking and picking up. Only when we can feel it ourselves, which is sad. But nevertheless, it's good that the debate is here now. And I think one of the most representative KPIs of, seeing this debate increase is that the media landscape within fashion, which traditionally has been built on, advertising money from the fashion industry, is actually starting to turn on its own practices and starting to report and take responsibility for reporting on the practices of the fashion industry and its impacts. All the global conferences are only about it. And yeah, there's a lot more scrutiny now. So it's definitely, it's peaking.
So basically increased environmental consciousness is contributing to your brand and to your sales, I would imagine.
That's true if you see it that way, cynically, yeah.
It's definitely. But what is the next step in terms of growth for Asket?
Yeah.
I mean, you're selling more or less globally.
Yeah.
I mean, you ship globally. You said Germany was your largest market with 35% share. Do you have any focused markets or focused channels moving on? What are the plans?
So we're still focusing on Europe. There's a lot left in Europe, and our focal markets are Germany, UK, and Sweden. We just moved our warehouse from Estonia to Germany, actually, so we're better able to cater to the German market, which has been a big improvement. But as I said before, we're still so small. There's so much left to do in Europe, and we try to, from the beginning, we've had kind of a hit as many birds as possible with one stone philosophy. So everything in English, one payment method, Klarna checkout, basically catering to all markets.
Which August, by the way, launched in Klarna.
Exactly. So if I wouldn't have chosen that, it would have been bad. One shipping solution, one central warehouse, trying to keep it as simple as possible. There's still a lot left to do before we will stray away from that and start opening local warehousing in North America or in Asia, for instance. So with that being said, the US is a super interesting market. 10% of our sales is actually from the US, without us doing anything there. So it's just word of mouth growing.
And you ship from your warehouse in Germany then?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, what is like the delivery time then from for a standard purchase from the US market?
It's actually extremely fast, and it's nothing that we like to boast about because it is the only way to get it there in a somehow sort of commercial way is by express. So it's air freight because you can't take stuff there by land, and boat wouldn't be possible for individual purchases. But that means that it's actually really, really fast. So you can get your parcel in under 24 hours to the U.S. West Coast, actually, from ordering.
Really? Is that fast?
So it's brutally fast. But one of the aspects, of course, of one of the other criteria we look at when it comes to setting up local warehousing is, of course, the customer experience, but also reducing our overall impact and reducing air freight. So we actually stopped offering free express shipping and increased so there's no sort of free overvalue for express shipping for us.
But like instead, growing your company like in the standard direction, growing like more warehouses, more assortment, like better fulfilling infrastructure for North America. You could also go the way, like in 5 years, becoming like the news. The group who's setting like the standard, selling like a technology or that helps like other companies to control the value chain, because you know so much now, stuff that usually the other companies just don't know. You have like a processes in place that help you to control the standards. So, and like from investors' perspective, they look outside. So what could make the biggest impact? Not only like for the environment, but also like for your P&L, the track could also lead into such in such a direction, because you wouldn't need so many people, and you're getting away from competing on Google or Instagram for sustainable T-shirt keywords stuff. So, and from what you have learned so far in the last like 5 years, and from what you've learned now within like the last 12 months of Greta and all the other stuff. So is this a possibility to move in that direction?
I think it is. And I think it is, I mean, as I mentioned early on, we've pivoted from being a product-centric and product-driven company really to a mission-driven company. And explicitly, our mission is to end the era of fast consumption. We have something called the pursuit of less, helping us all do more with less, essentially. And our domain is clothing. That is where we are really good, creating the best possible clothing out there, which becomes the vehicle to reduce our wardrobes. In the bigger picture of that vision,
it's also bad for IKEA furniture building.
That's true. And in the bigger picture of this vision, of course, we want to do a lot more than only having really, really good clothing and helping people find the right clothing, taking care of it longer. And so we're working a lot within the areas of thought leadership, trying to work with panel discussions, keynotes at conferences, getting out there and leading by example. We're so small. We can't lead by practice or by actually dominating and changing the volumes, the transactional volumes in the industry. But what we know that we're doing already, which is so rewarding, is that we are changing people's habits, and we are actually sparking a debate. So I've had conversations over lunch with Filippa K, one of Sweden's biggest fashion brands, the CEO, and they're eager to understand how we work and how they can improve and become better, and if there's any of our ideas and thoughts that they can adopt. And I think that's just fascinating, and we're super eager to open up and be transparent and help shape the direction of this industry. And we can't do it yet by practice, because we're too small, but we're already doing it by leading by example. And that's definitely something that we're going to continue to focus on, because time is of the essence. We're in a pickle, to be honest, as a global society, and Asket can't sort of do it alone. We need to do it together. And that's one of the most rewarding areas of my sort of day-to-day activity, is to actually interact and talk to other key people in the industry.
Yeah. So when I look so if I have to wrap it up a little bit, so I understand your core business is in a good shape. It's not going to be like €100 million revenue business in 2 years.
Not in 2 years, no.
From now, from my personal point of view, I'd rather go for a company that is setting like the Asket standard compared to selling more Asket t-shirts.
Seems more scalable, perhaps. Yeah.
It's pretty cool
in terms of impact.
It's just because it's the only way how to accelerate this whole stuff. I definitely will buy some of your stuff from the website. And is there anything
only if you need them though? Only if you need them.
You have some vectors that are not working in your favor. Is there anything you want to reach out to our German-speaking listeners here? Now you have the time.
Oh wow, that's a good question. I guess thank you for your support.
You can push out voucher codes always.
They don't do voucher codes.
No, we don't do discounts. We've never had a sale since we started back in 2015 actually. To our German audience in specific, I think we're just super thankful for the support. I mean, Germany exploded last year for us. We had a phenomenal presence in some of the leading newspapers in Germany, in Süddeutsche Zeitung and Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, and that has really sort of propelled awareness in Germany. So keep recommending us.
Thanks a lot for being our guest here.
Thanks for joining.
Thanks so much, guys.
Great. Hope you enjoyed the episode with Asket. And of course, from here on out, no one is allowed to buy fast fashion anymore. It's only Asket and Asket.com. Really important. Next week, we actually stay true to the topic of fashion, and we're going to be meeting an umbrella brand who are looking to establish umbrellas as an accessory produced in the last remaining factory in Sweden. So very much looking forward to hopefully see you again next week when we talk to Carl Dag.